My daily day's struggle. Lily woke with a familiar sigh, her English textbook a daunting presence on her desk. Every day felt like a new battle, a constant uphill struggle against grammar rules and elusive vocabulary. She yearned for fluency, a dream that seemed perpetually out of reach, shadowed by her persistent fear of making embarrassing mistakes in public. This daily grind was exhausting, yet she refused to surrender. The thought of opening her mouth to speak English filled Lily with dread. She didn't want to make a mistake, even a tiny one, because it felt like a public declaration of her inadequacy. Yet, despite her best efforts, errors slipped out constantly, like uninvited guests at a formal dinner. "Why me?" she often whispered, feeling a wave of frustration wash over her. This cycle of anxiety and self-correction was her daily companion. She watched others converse effortlessly, their words flowing like a river, while hers felt like a choked stream. Her desire to master English burned brightly, yet the path ahead seemed shrouded in an impenetrable fog, making every step uncertain and heavy. One evening, staring at a blank page, she typed, "Why do I always make mistakes?" The internet offered a deluge of advice, but much of it felt generic, not addressing her specific anguish. She needed a clearer direction, a tangible map to navigate this linguistic labyrinth, not just vague encouragement. The common refrain was reading is important. Lily had always dismissed it, preferring active exercises. But a sudden curiosity piqued her interest. Could passively absorbing words truly be the secret weapon everyone claimed? She had doubts, deep-seated ones, about its efficacy compared to direct practice and rote memorization. She picked up a simple children's book, its pages filled with colorful illustrations and straightforward sentences. Reluctantly at first, she began to read. The words flowed, not demanding complex grammatical analysis, but simply inviting her to follow the narrative. It was surprisingly soothing, a different kind of engagement than she was used to. As she continued, Lily noticed something subtle changing. Phrases started to sound more natural in her head. Her vocabulary, previously a jumbled mess, seemed to organize itself into clearer patterns. Reading wasn't just about understanding, it was about internalizing the rhythm and flow of the language, a quiet revolution taking place. The more she read, the less intimidating new words appeared. Context often provided clues, making dictionary reliance less frequent. This method, initially scoffed at, was slowly dismantling her rigid belief that learning had to be painful. It felt almost effortless, a stark contrast to her previous arduous study sessions. Reading builds intuition, an article stated. Lily now understood. It wasn't about memorizing every single word, but about developing a feel for the language, a subconscious grasp of its rules and nuances. This newfound appreciation for reading transformed her study routine completely, adding a calming, enriching dimension. Next, the omnipresent advice, listen to English. Lily had tried this before, often feeling overwhelmed by rapid native speech. It felt like a wall of sound, impenetrable and discouraging. She'd switch off after a few minutes, convinced her ears simply weren't attuned enough to catch anything meaningful. This time, armed with her reading insight, she approached listening differently. She started with podcasts designed for learners, slower and clearer. She didn't focus on understanding every single word, but on grasping the main idea, letting the sounds wash over her, training her ear gently, patiently. Gradually, she progressed to more authentic materials, short news clips, then interviews. The key, she realized, was not to panic if she missed something. Instead, she trained herself to infer, to pick up on keywords, letting the overall context guide her understanding, building resilience against perceived failures. Listening and practicing, the experts said, were inseparable. This meant not just hearing, but actively engaging with the sounds. Lily began to shadow speakers, repeating phrases immediately after hearing them, mimicking intonation and rhythm. It felt awkward at first, like a child learning to speak anew. She recorded herself, then played it back, cringing at her own accent initially. But with each repetition, subtle improvements emerged. Her tongue felt more agile, her lips more accustomed to unfamiliar sounds. This active repetition was physically training her mouth to produce English sounds correctly and naturally. The concept of English story reading took on new significance. Not only did she read for comprehension, but she also listened to audiobooks while reading along. This combined approach powerfully reinforced both her listening and reading skills simultaneously, making the learning process much more engaging and effective. The stories captivated her, making the learning feel less like a chore and more like an adventure. Characters became companions, plots unfolded like mysteries. This immersive experience distracted her from the pressure of learning, allowing her brain to absorb language organically, without conscious effort or stress. Each new story was a fresh opportunity to encounter vocabulary and context, solidifying words in her long-term memory. The emotional connection to the narrative made the language stick better than any flashcard ever could. It was learning disguised as entertainment, a powerful, enjoyable combination she embraced fully. Despite all this progress, the biggest hurdle remained: talking. The fear of making mistakes, of being judged, still paralyzed her. She could read, she could listen, she could even write, but the spoken word felt like an insurmountable mountain, guarding her true potential behind a veil of anxiety. How to take the first step for talking, she pondered, staring at her reflection. The answer wasn't in more studying, but in action, no matter how small. She needed to break the mental barrier, to step out of her comfort zone, even if it meant stumbling a few times before finding her footing. Her first attempt was speaking to her reflection, describing her day aloud. It felt ridiculous, yet it built a small muscle of confidence. Then, she tried recording short monologues, speaking about simple topics like her favorite food or her weekend plans. These low-stakes practices were crucial steps. Next, she sought out online language exchange partners. Her heart pounded before her first video call. She stumbled, she paused, she even forgot simple words. But surprisingly, her partner was patient, encouraging, and understanding. The world didn't end, instead, a new door quietly opened for her. The initial awkwardness slowly faded with each conversation. She learned to embrace her mistakes as learning opportunities, not as failures. Every wrong verb tense or mispronounced word became a stepping stone, guiding her closer to fluency. This shift in mindset was absolutely revolutionary for her progress. She started joining online discussion groups, where the pressure was lower, and she could contribute short sentences without fear. The topics were often engaging, naturally prompting her to express opinions and engage in debates. This gradual exposure built her confidence incrementally, bit by bit. Lily also discovered the power of thinking in English. Instead of translating from her native language, she tried to form thoughts directly in English. This bypassed a mental filter, making her responses quicker and more natural, even if they weren't perfect initially. It was a challenging, yet rewarding, exercise. Her journey was not linear. There were days of immense frustration, moments where she felt like giving up entirely. Progress wasn't a steady incline but a series of plateaus and sudden surges forward. Self-doubt sometimes crept in, whispering negative thoughts, trying to derail her unwavering determination. Yet, she always remembered why she started, the desire to connect, to understand, to explore a world beyond her linguistic boundaries. This profound motivation pulled her back from the brink whenever discouragement threatened to overwhelm her spirit. Her dream was too vital to abandon now. She understood that learning English wasn't about perfection, it was about progress. It wasn't about never making a mistake, but about making mistakes and learning from them. Her fear of errors, once crippling, had transformed into a valuable guide, highlighting areas needing more attention and practice. Every single day, she dedicated a small, consistent amount of time to her English studies. Consistency, she found, was far more effective than sporadic, intense bursts of effort. Even 15 minutes of focused reading or listening proved more beneficial than hours of overwhelmed, scattered study sessions. Lily cultivated a routine that incorporated all the elements she had discovered: daily reading, active listening, consistent practice speaking, and engaging with stories. This holistic approach ensured that no skill was neglected, fostering a balanced and comprehensive development of her English abilities. She surrounded herself with English, changing her phone settings, watching English movies with subtitles, and even listening to English music. Immersion, even artificial, proved incredibly powerful. Her brain, constantly exposed to the language, began to absorb it more readily, almost without conscious effort. The joy she now found in learning was immense. The initial dread had been replaced by genuine curiosity and excitement. She looked forward to her study sessions, eager to discover new words, understand new concepts, and improve her conversational flow with newfound confidence and enthusiasm. Her conversations became smoother, her thoughts clearer, and her understanding of native speakers deepened remarkably. The feeling of being truly understood, and understanding others, was immensely gratifying. It was a testament to her perseverance, a powerful reward for all her sustained effort. Lily often reflected on her initial struggles, almost smiling at the memory of her intense fear of mistakes. That version of herself seemed so distant now, replaced by someone who embraced challenges, someone who understood that growth came from venturing beyond comfort zones. She began to help others, sharing her journey and the methods that worked for her. She told them, "Don't be afraid to sound silly. Everyone starts somewhere." Her experience offered invaluable insights and encouragement to fellow language learners embarking on similar challenging paths. Why reading is important, she would explain, is because it builds your foundational understanding and expands your vocabulary naturally. It's not just about words, it's about patterns and context. Her advocacy for reading became a cornerstone of her shared wisdom with others. The best way to learn English, she'd advise, is a combination: consistent listening, active reading, and most importantly, brave speaking. Don't rely on just one method, integrate them for maximum impact. This holistic perspective helped many overcome their own linguistic plateaus. She emphasized the power of Listen English by suggesting beginning with materials tailored for learners, then slowly increasing difficulty. Don't overwhelm yourself, she cautioned, but consistently challenge your ears to new accents and speeds. This patient approach yielded consistent positive results. For listen and practice, her advice was simple: mimic, record, and compare. Don't be afraid of your own voice. It's your unique instrument. She taught them to appreciate the subtle improvements, celebrating small victories rather than waiting for perfect fluency to emerge. She encouraged English story reading as a joyful gateway. Find stories you genuinely enjoy, she urged, because enjoyment fuels motivation. When you're captivated by a narrative, learning feels effortless, and your brain naturally absorbs the language without conscious effort. How to take first step for talking was always the most popular question. Lily's answer was firm: start small. Talk to yourself, record yourself. Then find a patient partner. The first step is always the hardest, but it's the most liberating. Her simple strategy proved highly effective. Her transformation was remarkable. From a timid learner paralyzed by fear, she had blossomed into a confident communicator, unafraid to express herself, even if her English wasn't always flawless. This journey was a testament to her resilience and unwavering dedication to her goals. The world felt bigger now, more accessible. She could travel, meet new people, and understand different cultures without the language barrier acting as a formidable wall. English had become a bridge, connecting her to endless possibilities and enriching her life in countless unexpected ways. Lily no longer saw mistakes as failures, but as invaluable data points, indicators of where she needed to focus her attention. They were signals for growth, not signs of inadequacy. This profound mindset shift freed her from the relentless pursuit of unattainable perfection. She learned that true fluency wasn't about speaking without error, but about speaking without hesitation, about conveying meaning effectively and confidently. The confidence, she realized, came not from perfection, but from the willingness to try, to stumble, and to keep going no matter what. Her daily day's struggle had evolved into a daily day's journey, filled with continuous discovery and personal triumph. Each day brought new words, new phrases, and new opportunities to connect. The initial struggle had forged a stronger, more resilient version of herself, incredibly capable. The way of learning English she forged was unique to her, yet contained universal truths: consistency, immersion, varied methods, and a positive mindset. She advocated for finding one's own rhythm, adapting strategies to individual learning styles and preferences for optimal results. Her initial lament, "I don't want make mistake but I always why," had transformed into an empowering understanding. Mistakes were inevitable, essential parts of the learning process, like stepping stones across a river. Embracing them accelerated her progress significantly and meaningfully. She had conclusively answered why reading is important not just for herself, but for countless others. It was the silent mentor, the constant companion that built foundational knowledge and intuitive grasp of the language, providing a solid bedrock for all other skills. The integrated approach she championed became the best way to learn English for many. It was a mosaic of methods, each piece contributing to a larger, more vibrant picture of linguistic proficiency, proving that diversity in learning strategies leads to holistic growth. Her emphasis on listen English evolved from passive hearing to active, engaged comprehension. It was about tuning into the rhythm, the intonation, and the natural flow, allowing the sounds to imprint themselves on her memory, preparing her for confident communication. The synergy of listen and practice transformed her pronunciation and speaking fluency dramatically. This active engagement with spoken language, mimicking and repeating, bridged the gap between understanding and producing, making her feel more articulate and expressive. English story reading remained a cherished part of her routine, a delightful escape that simultaneously enhanced her linguistic abilities without the pressure of formal study. It was a powerful reminder that learning could and should be an enjoyable, captivating experience for everyone. Her personal success story became a beacon for how to take first step for talking. She showed that bravery wasn't the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it, proving that even small, consistent steps lead to monumental progress and self-realization. Lily's journey illustrated that to truly learn English was to embark on a lifelong adventure of discovery, not a sprint to a finish line. It was about embracing the process, celebrating every small victory, and continually evolving as a global communicator. And so, her daily struggle transmuted into a vibrant, ongoing exploration. She no longer feared the unknown, but eagerly embraced it, knowing each new conversation, each new book, each new listened phrase, was another step forward on her incredible, ever-unfolding linguistic journey.